My topic of discussion today is treating your days like they actually are important when you might feel like it's just a filler. For so many years in my life, I thought that on my filler days, it was just optimal for me to treat it like it wasn't important. But then I realized, and I just kind of thought about it as well, when if I'm treating my day like it doesn't matter, then naturally and subconsciously I'm not going to put as much intention throughout my actions. And if there's no intent behind my actions, no matter how insignificant I think they are, then it's not going to mean anything to me and it's not going to stick. Therefore, I'm most likely not going to get as much done. I'm not going to be able to be as productive as I'd like to because I think today is just not important and I'm just allowing myself to have that mentality. But, soon realizing that, in the midst of a busy ass day, that you wish you could just go back and do nothing, then you'll just realize and understand how important it is to reset your mind and your body correctly on your off days. And that's just another key example of why rest is so important, but so overlooked. People always highlight the importance of being disciplined, the importance of hard work, but nobody really ever capitalizes on what quality rest can do. Because if you're burnt out from whether it be your job, your sport, life in general, it might just be a sign that you're not using your free time to innovate your mind to just rest, just reset. Don't feel like you have to do anything. And, do it at a quality. If you're really going to rest, then make sure you just block everything out that could possibly distract you. But, you can't just block every negative thing out of your life or else you wouldn't be here. There's always going to be something negative affecting you in one way or another, but that doesn't mean you should allow it to stop you. You know what I mean? Because for so long in my life, I allowed fear to dictate what I did and didn't do. And a big part of my fear stemmed from anything having a negative effect in my life, which in retrospect is very, very valid to have that sort of ideology placed in your life. But, soon you realize that, bro, I don't want to live like this. It feels like I'm caging myself. You know what I mean? And when you just block yourself from doing certain things because you're scared of the consequence, that right there is telling your mind that we're not confident that we can deal with whatever backlash falls after this. Because every action has a consequence, but it's up to you to determine how the consequence actually affects your life. When something goes wrong, are you just allowing yourself to break down and be so uncertain and be so fearful? Or are you allowing yourself to be unaffected and move on? Because the thing I struggled with the most was perfectionism. I felt like even though I know I didn't have to be perfect, I still wanted to have that feeling because it felt like I was just improving faster. And perfectionism kind of looked like just hiding from certain actions because you're scared to mess up. But that right there, hiding and preventing yourself from experiencing and learning, is robbing yourself from everything life has to offer. Because you learn so much through actions and just doing things. But if you don't allow yourself to do things, or you don't allow yourself to go out and experience the world, simply put, you might be more focused temporarily, but long term, you will never go far if you just continue to restrict yourself from anything educational. Because people always talk about how, learning just looks like taking in information and seeing somebody do something and copying that, or, just seeing somebody talk about a certain topic like how I'm talking right now and just absorbing that information. But the problem with any of this is that it has no resonation within you. Simply put, if what I'm saying doesn't matter to you, then you can wake up tomorrow and not absorb any of this evidence because you don't care, or simply put, you forgot. However, if you were to take the initiative and you took action in your own life and you suffered a consequence, you're going to wake up that next morning and remember it because it personally resonated from you. And it's not the easiest thing in the world to do, everybody, to just try and learn and experience and just try and be so fearless of any of these consequences. You know, they are very real. Certain consequences can negatively affect your life, but that doesn't mean it should let you be stopped from feeling these things. Don't allow yourself to just not do things because you're scared it'll be bad for you. If you avoided every bad thing or you tried to avoid every bad thing, then you wouldn't do half of the things, matter of fact, 90% of the things that actually made you happy. Because everything can have a side effect, everything negative. You know, even positive things can be bad for you as well. That's why I think the most important thing we prioritize, everybody, is throwing all that good and bad bullshit aside and just attacking our day with the priority to learn and to educate. Not on anything certain unless you want to focus on it, but just being educated and being taught by what's put in front of us. And once you start putting learning as a priority over just personal gain or, you know, improvement that you think you're going to grab, once you start experiencing first, you'll just learn how powerful and just how abundant all the blessings in your life are. Because there's always a lesson you can learn from something. And if you continue to go about things in an educational perspective, then, you know, nothing can ever be bad for you. Even if you don't have the highest discipline and let's say you go out and party a lot, even though it's not necessarily positive to party a lot, you're still learning a lot about how to read the room, how to read the mood, how to read other people, and how to go about yourself when people are masking or off substances. You know, you learn so much just being in different environments. That's why I think for a long time I plagued myself from growth, because instead of allowing myself to get out there and see what other environments look like, I completely barricaded myself because I thought that going out was negative. Obviously, it's not great for you, but you know, why not just try? Why not learn? So, if anything ever just strikes you as negative in your life, ask yourself the why behind the reason that you're scared to do it. And I'm not saying you have to fight these things because that can frankly make it much worse. But what you can do is move on and build the new. It's very simple. Once I stopped fighting patterns that continue repeating in my life, and I started learning new things and creating new things and noticing new thoughts, that's when my life started to change a little bit more. And obviously, old patterns will come back and it'll place some fear in my heart, obviously, but you know, at the end of the day, fear is only as strong as you make it in your mind. Do you let fear stop you? Do you let feeling uncomfortable stop you from living your life? Or do you just allow yourself to continue? To not try and be strong, but to just be with yourself when you feel uncomfortable is true strength. You know, don't abandon yourself whenever things just get difficult or anything like that. But just simply being with yourself is enough. And, you know, you couldn't really ask yourself for much more. But yeah, please go out there and learn, educate yourself, and every day is important. no matter how insignificant or unimportant you think it is, there's always something you can be grateful for or take away from that day.